sir. But, and I mean sir when I say to him, because he is at that level of filmmaker, writer, teammate. And that's a key word, because of all the movies I've worked on, this movie probably had a greater sense of teamwork. And the fact that there's no I in the word team. I didn't know what to expect when I met Ryan O'Neal, except the second or third night when we were working down behind Torchy's or wherever it was, and they had a lineup and there was like transvestites in there or something, and Ryan O'Neal suddenly just, you know, out of the blue, turned to some guy, and some guy says, well, you know, what are you making fun of the transvestites to a couple of guys? Ryan wasn't one of them. And he says, well, and Ryan just suddenly says, well, because, you know, it's not hard to be a transvestite now. You can go to Marrakesh and get a hole for $5 grand. I said to myself, my God, this guy is okay. He gets it, he's funny. And what Walter said earlier about the job that he did with Ryan, you won't see the guy had done a lot of comedy kind of stuff in which he was funny in, but you haven't seen a more severe presence out of this actor or any actor that comes out of that ilk better than what Walter got Ryan to do in this. I mean, he was stone cold. And for Ryan to do that, it was a guy who loved to be loved, still loves to be loved, and ended up really growing as an actor. And I think this was the first time he realized how much he had to grow. And that's Walter's gift. Walter's gift is he demands you to come and play. And if you don't have game, you're gone. And that's what I like about him, that whole thing that he had. I mean, let's face it, there are very few Dernsies in this movie. Every now and then I'll lay out one, but he because they're Hillsies. And he writes pretty good. And he writes things that are great. So whatever I got to say, I got to say. I would like to say one thing.
What Bruce is trying to say is that I'm much nicer to him tonight than I am on the set.
The one name I should bring up that we're not going to bring up probably is Everett Creech.
Absolutely.
Because Everett Creech is the stunt coordinator, driver, was driving, I don't know which cars he was in. Was he doing Ryan's stuff?
He was doing Ryan.
Yeah.
We were talking about him at dinner.
Yeah, he was a one-of-a-kinder. And he was in an era of stuntman, whether it was Kerry Lofton or him or you know, Buzz Henry, or all the guys that were in that ilk of stuntmen that really brought the 70s movies after experiencing the late 60s to the fore and were willing to do this stuff. And you know what? They didn't feel it was a risk. Well, I watched the movie again, and I remember when I saw it the first time, and thank God I wasn't in the car sequence, because, and Isabella Johnny, I mean, she just, you know, you thought she just swallowed her tongue at the very beginning and didn't know what to do. I mean, just throughout the whole movie, the whole experience was wonderful. And it all starts with Walter. And Frank gives a good assist. Larry Gordon we never saw, so. But you know what, Walter one day, and I wasn't nuts about the night work either. I hated it, and I would try and lie and cheat and tell him every goddamn thing I could to get out by 2:30 or 3. And I won a few, and I lost a few. But the wonderful thing about it, Walter said, you know, Bruce, movies should be fun. This movie, regardless of what you saw, was fun. Because you know what? There weren't risks taken. It looks risky, but these diagrams they had and everything else were precautionary and safe. But what I would say about the movie, and then I'll shut the fuck up. In one time I was traveling on a plane, and Mike Martz, who was then the coach of the St. Louis Rams, and I'm a Ram fan, was on the plane. And the Rams had that great aerial circus in the early 2000s when they won the Super Bowl, and just after that, Mike Martz was the designer of it all, which was guys that would run places and all over the place that looked helter-skelter, and the pass receivers were open and no one could stop it. It didn't hurt that Kurt Warner was a quarterback or anything else. And I asked him on the plane, I said, what do you call this? What do you call your offense? And he said, and I give it as a tribute to Walter because this is what he does, organized mayhem. And that's what the man does better than anybody. And let's not forget, he writes all this shit on paper before he ever begins.
Ronnie, how did it feel? When was the last time you saw it, and how did it feel watching it after? Well, when was the last time you saw it?
Well, I have it on, what is it that we play on the Umatics, the old system?
VHS.
Recorder inch?
Yeah,
Three-quarter.
three-quarter, yeah. So that tells you how long ago. And I was so excited to see it tonight. I was thrilled. I felt like a premiere. I mean, I was really excited to see it. And I thought it was really great. And I'm so proud and honored that I was in it. Just to see everybody again, it's just thrilling to me. And, you know, Phil Lathrop's beautiful work. You know,
Yes, he was a wonderful fellow. And Phil did my first two movies. I was lucky to work with him, and he was a great low-key cameraman. He was great and a great man. I always say that you know, directing is a privilege. And you start out, you don't know everything. I don't think I ever learned more from any one person than I did from Phil. And he was a gentleman too, real professional.
Yeah, he was a gentleman cameraman. He always had his little hat on, and he was very much in charge of things. And it's what Bruce was saying about the action scenes, the chase scenes now, you know, because we're so used to what we're seeing today because they can be enhanced and everything. Everything you saw there was real. I think it started with the French Connection in 1970, 71, that they were doing all these things for real, and we weren't doing blue screen, and we were designing the things with Everett Creech, who was the stunt coordinator. So there would be a lot of driving for real with the characters, and then when the big stuff would happen, obviously we would have the stunt people in there, but it wasn't blue screen, and it really happened, and I think that really added to what you felt. That I happened to stick my head in when the Trans Am flew through the air and crashed, and I remember that night we were down in Long Beach, and you get pretty pumped up and excited for these moments, and the kid who was driving the car was way too excited and missed the post by about 20 feet. He flew about 20 feet further than he was supposed to, and almost took everybody out. There were cameras everywhere. He took a camera out on the top, and it was pretty amazing because, you know, it was all for real. That car, there was a guy in that car that flipped and hit in those days. So
Those shots of Ryan O'Neal and Isabella Gianni at the end, is that on a trailer or is that on a car mount? Because it looks like it's going super fast with them in it.
we did mounts. They were never. It was for real. You know,
So
all the
that's
tunnel
Ryan,
stuff.
so
was
that's
all real.
Ryan actually driving in that shot.
yeah.
I think they were being towed.
No, I think that was probably a toe shot. You're talking about the one where the bullet hole goes through the glass?
Yeah, just a lot of that.
So that was a toe shot. But we were going off the fence.
But we were still going fast, even though they were being towed. We were going fast.
I just want to add one other thing in my salute, not only to Walter, but there's others like this. I mean, Mr. Frankenheimer was